Well, there was a controversial meeting last night at Mosman Council, and the council voted against an Aboriginal land rights claim. It turns out the claim was made back in 2009, but Mosman Council say they only found out about it a month ago. The site in question is just across the road from Balmoral Beach. Real estate experts have valued the 2,500 square metres at about $100 million. Mosman Council says they're already putting the land to use, and the meeting became tense. Have a listen to the bickering between residents.
It's quite staggering when you read this that no information is available providing details of the claim, the purpose of the claim, and if successful, there's no obligation upon the claimant to do so. I mean, that's outrageous.
So, councillors unanimously voted against the claim. A final decision will be made by New South Wales Crown Land. And let's go to Nathan Moran, the CEO of the local Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council. He's with us in the studio. Good morning to you, Nathan.
Morning, Ben.
So, this shouldn't be a surprise because Mosman Council is surprised.
I firstly find that hard to believe if they don't have any records that attest that it was 14 years ago. It was actually the 12th of March 2009. The claim was lodged. It was certainly in the system at the end of that financial year, and I'd suggest a bit bewildered by that statement they didn't know about it. What I do understand, and it appears to have occurred, is Crown Lands have reached out and they may be assessing it finally.
So, is this your organisation behind the claim?
We are the local land council who lodged the claim.
What's the basis for the claim?
So claims are available under the Aboriginal Land Rights Act. All local land councils are able to make claims on Crown land. Now, those claims are only allowed and permitted to proceed when the claim is on Crown land. So I've got to firstly state, the New South Wales Land Rights Act in 83 was set up as recompense for the loss of the state, for all the resources, minerals, freehold, private land, pastoral lands, licensed lands, all lands other than Crown lands were off the table. But what was left in land rights was the ability to make claims on it. We're only allowed to receive land that's not required by either the state or local governments. It's called, is it required for essential public purposes?
Okay, is it fair to say that when Crown land comes up or when the use of Crown land changes, that organisations see an opportunity to put in a claim and say, all right, well, we should put in a claim on that land?
Yeah, it's a good point. All Crown land is basically allotted or assigned in accordance with its gazettal. That is, what's the approved use of the site? So we've got cases where Crown lands, have assets that are not being used in accordance with its original approval. That's when it becomes claimable, and virtually ability for a local land council like us to make a claim and argue if there's no one using it legally in accordance with its gazettal, it then becomes claimable.
All right, Mosman Council is saying this is being used. This land is being used in Mosman, so keep your hands off it.
So I want to concede that the state government never allowed Aboriginal land councils access to the government data until 2018. I use the phrase my grandfather had. It's like pinning the tail on a donkey without any actual clue on what you're claiming other than the suspicion that it's owned by the Crown is the reasons prior to 2018 when we had no access. We would simply look at a site, understand it and realise, is it potentially used by government? And then we'd make claims.
But what's the cultural significance of this particular piece of land?
So Aboriginal land claims are not based on cultural significance. That's not the actual factor. It's about, is it able to be claimed? Is it in the name of the Crown?
Well, that sounds like a land grab.
Well, the Aboriginal Land Rights Act was set up as recompense, as I said at the start, Ben, for all lands that have been removed from us.
So if there's an opportunity there to get your hands on it, you may as well.
That's exactly it. The land councils are here to try and acquire what land we can get back within our boundaries to really form the asset base that will pay for to sustain our council.
How many land claims does your organisation have at the moment, the local Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council?
Yeah, so we're in excess of about 2,500, closer to 3. That's undetermined claims, total claims.
2,500 to 3,000?
Yes.
That's just your group?
Yes.
What about across all groups?
So across the state, I know that the number officially was 38,000 June last year, and I believe that when we discussed it just recently at a gathering, it's brokered to near 40,000 claims across New South Wales are undetermined, have not been assessed and sit in files.
There are 40,000 Aboriginal land claims at the moment in New South Wales.
Yes, I'm glad we're having this discussion, Ben. It's been one of the very sad points of New South Wales land rights. We haven't been able to realise a right. We've made the claims. We just hope they can be assessed and to acknowledge that on evidence of success rates, not all claims are actually made successful and granted to us. There's a great number are not granted to us because they're still used in accordance with their legal, gazettal.
Any idea on percentages or a bit of an estimate when you look at the number of land claims that are happening in New South Wales and how many succeed?
Well, we can only speak as our local council and attest that at least more than 2/3 of our claims have been refused of the total that have been assessed, and only thereabouts a third have been actually granted. And
Crown Lands makes the final decision. So even though Mosman Council might say, no thanks, it's not up to them ultimately.
Correct. It's a Crown Lands, the assessment body for Aboriginal land claims.
Nathan Moran is with us in the studio, the CEO of the local Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council. Can you understand, Nathan, why a lot of people listening will be shocked hearing this? I mean, I understand you've got a job to do and there's an opportunity there, right? When Crown Land is there, and if you feel it's not being used, then you can put in a claim. That's why you're there. Can you understand why people in New South Wales would be thinking, oh my Lord, 40,000 Aboriginal land claims in this state alone?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit saddened that people aren't aware that New South Wales and the NT are the only states or territories with Aboriginal land rights. Our Aboriginal land rights in New South Wales, I believe, is one of the most under-promoted, unknown entities of the New South Wales legislative system, and quite frankly, that's the frustration. If more people knew about it, I think it could work better and people could understand it, and therefore, we'd get along a lot better.
I've had people writing to me about Waverton Bowling Club. This was handed back to the Indigenous community last year, and I've been told that nothing's really happened with it since, that it's turned into cobwebs.
So that was part of a court process. So that claim was a claim lodged by the Land Council in 2019. It was originally rejected by Crown Lands and said that it could not be transferred to the Land Council. We appealed that decision in the Land Environment Court, and it was only November 2022 that the court ruled and determined it should be transferred to us, and indeed ordered it must be done in 6 months.
What are you going to do with it?
Well, we're right in the middle of getting that handover completed, the surveys and the titling to be done to transfer it to us, to firstly lodge it on our asset base, to insure it, and then to understand more, to diligently look at what the planning conditions currently allow for. It's a recreational bowling club. There's restrictions on what can be done there. And of course, what we do is always ensure that whatever we do must be in accordance with planning.
And these claims would be across a range of sites, right? From bowling clubs to parks.
Police stations.
Police stations?
Absolutely, Ben. There's some famous cases of a precedence at La Perouse set many moons ago, where police stations are empty, not used or occupied. They're just standing there. They're not even being operated. There is abilities for us to claim, and we've currently got one on now that we're awaiting assessment on.
This has the potential to rack up tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees for everyone involved.
Yeah, that's the sad one. If Crown Lands chooses to refuse a claim that we know is claimable, in the sense that we have information that's on file that proves it's not being used in accordance with the law, like the Waverton Bowling Club, for instance, I'd also suggest Skippy. Waratah Park was a great example of the government not granting a claim when it should. There was an illegal use of that site by a private commercial operator at Waratah Park in 2013. Our claim was refused. We had to go to court, and we pay the expense of going to the court, and then we win the claim. They're examples I'd give where Crown Land should be a bit more honourable in acknowledging if we made a claim at a date and it's not being used legally, why refuse it and force us to go to court?
What are some of the examples of where you have been granted Crown Land and you've done amazing things with that land?
Oh, well, Skippy's a great example. So we inherited a 12-hectare site that was highly contaminated. A commercial operator had stripped out all the steel, had left dilapidated buildings, a rundown entire site.
And what is it now?
Well, now it's being returned, restored back to its native pristine state. More importantly, it's about relationships.
And what's it used for?
It's the relationships with the Duffy's Forest local community group, who actually occupies and uses the land to be a clean-up site. We do our own akin to bush care on the site. We have an association with the veterinarian hospital who does injured animals on site.
And it's accessible for everyone?
Well, yeah, within the gamut of those licence holders and ourselves, people seeking permission.
Black, white, anyone who wants to go in there can go and use it?
Through those licence holders, but I just acknowledge it's a private land. So
yeah, sure.
We've got the Sydney Veterinarian Hospital running the injured animals, the fauna projects out there at Duffy's. And then we've got the Duffy's Forest Association clearing for the park, taking care of it daily. So it's through those two, and or the Skippy and Friends group is another group that we have relationships and allow on the park. they're the bodies that you have to go through,
The
or
man,
ourselves.
the man you're listening to is Nathan Moran, the CEO of the local Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council, and it's that land council that's put in a claim on this parcel of land just across the road from Balmoral Beach. I'm guessing a lot of people in Mossman would love to hear you say right now, all right, well, we won't touch that piece of land. We don't need it. We'll take that one off the list, but that's not what you're going to be saying this morning, is it?
Well, it's not my role to do that. As a CEO, I'm here to administer the council, and the council's lodged a claim. It must be assessed, determined, for me then go back to my board and members to try and work out.
And if you got it, what would you do with it?
Oh, geez, a range of opportunities comes up. We always look at through the eyes of, is it cultural, is it social, is it environmental, is it recreation, is it commercial, industrial, or is it residential? That's the prisms on what we understand all lands fall under generally, and we certainly approach that by case.
So would you kick people off who are using it currently for recreational purposes?
So that's the example we don't give. So even at Yasmar now, we're transferring 2/3 of the old Yasmar detention centre. We don't kick anyone off. The Haberfield Association there, similar to Duffy's Forest, are the local group who are caring for that site. We work with them and we, like we did at Duffy's, offer licences to continue that relationship.
All right. Well, look, I think a lot of people are going to be shocked, but as you say, it's probably indicative of the fact that a lot of us just don't understand a lot of these issues and how many claims are out there. 40,000 currently in New South Wales, the latest number. We wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for you coming in the studio. And you can understand why people in Mossman are concerned about it, right?
Yeah, but can I thank Chris and their callers to Chris who brought it to light, that the local council was just, having a determination, a discussion about it, because for me that means there's movement. And without these discussions on land claims, they'll just sit there and stagnate, and I hate to inherit it to my children and grandchildren, a backlog of claims that's larger than this building.
Yeah, Chris O'Keefe had the story on Drive yesterday afternoon. He'll have more this afternoon, and you'll keep on fighting for that parcel of land in Balmoral.
I'll await a determination and make a decision from there, Ben. I'll keep fighting for the return of land for Aboriginal people as it's meant for, as recompense for the loss of the state.
We appreciate you coming to the studio. I've only got 15 seconds. Yes or no, not your vote, but which way do you see it going, the referendum?
Well, at this stage, it's an even curl. We've just held a community forum, Ben. I can enlighten listeners. Metro Land Council actually had a forum. We had Warren in the room, Anthony Dillon, and it was a mixture of responses.
Good man. Well, I appreciate you coming in and answering the questions. Thank you so much.